The following is a paid program, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent the opinions of the management of this station or Pamel Broadcasting, and the views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers of this program are solely their own. They do not represent or reflect the views, policies, or official position of ACA, its affiliates, or its staff. ACA does not endorse any statements made during this broadcast. This is 1 in 31, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 31 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 31, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And today I'm talking with my old friend and colleague, Tracy Schober, who is now the Executive Director of the Autism Society of the Greater Hudson region. Did I get that right, Tracy?
That is correct.
All right. Lots of long acronym, great organization, lots of impact. So, Tracy, it's great to have you back on the show. How have you been?
Good. Glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I appreciate it.
Sure. It's my pleasure. We have a long history with, ASGHR, and I think our organizations complement one another because we really don't do exactly the same thing. I know you're involved in a lot of advocacy and community engagement and resource building, and obviously at Anderson we're the residential program primarily for autistic children and adults. But it's been great getting to know the organization, and now that you and I have this mutual history with Anderson, seeing kind of where you're taking things as you've assumed the executive directorship there. So on that note, why don't you kind of start us off with anything, maybe an overview of what Autism Society is doing and anything new coming up that you want to draw attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Autism Society Greater Hudson Region, and I'll just say Autism Society moving forward today. So we really focus on 5 core services. So we're really focusing on education, which then can lead to advocacy, community engagement or community events, that information and referral. So when people are in need of some information on whether it's a doctor or a resource in the community, we help to try to guide them to that so that it can benefit them, their family, their child. And then we also have social connection groups or support. And so those are some of the areas that we really focus on. We're really proud to say this last year, we trained over 1,100 people throughout the eastern part of New York, which is a huge accomplishment for our organization. Created some new trainings, a lot of education going into autism and neurodiversity in the workplace, as well as helping children to understand other children with sensory differences and helping them to become a sensory ally. And then another training that is really beneficial to school personnel, parents, caregivers, is the Dignity for All Students Act training. So we're really proud of some of the things that we've pushed out this year. And we did launch a Mom's Night Out, which is the first of its kind for our organization. And we are going on our 3rd month this month. And it's not a typical support group. I'm not a therapist or a counselor, so we're really shifting towards being social connection groups. And from that social connection really brings that natural, not just the connection, but the support, learning from each other. And so it's really starting to take off. So those are just some of the things that are on the horizon. To find out more, you can always visit our website. But those are just some of the quick things to talk about in the time we have.
Awesome. Well, I have a couple of questions, but the first one is, since you mentioned the website, what is the website so we can keep making sure people hear that?
Yes, the website is www.asghr.org.
Great. All right. So we'll make sure we get that out when we post this, and also we'll talk about it a few more times today. So congratulations. That's huge impact. Over 1,100 people trained just in 1 year. Your core services of education, advocacy, community engagement, referral services, and social connection and support really are a really nice, I think, sort of 5-pronged approach to supporting people and their families in enough ways that you're probably going to have a little bit of something for everybody, which is great. Okay, I want to ask you about this. You said sensory ally. And I think that's really cool. I have a guess as to what you mean by that, but could you talk about what a sensory ally is and why it's important to try to strive to be one?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of our training, and it's a very quick, short training, originally geared towards children, but we've modified it so that it can be really for anyone. But it's really having an understanding of why someone might need to wear headphones, why they might need to use a fidget. And so I can remember one of our events that we had, it was working with children and asking a child, they were making sensory fidgets and asking a child, so, okay, you have this one in your hand and the other one in your hand. How does each make you feel? And which do you like better? And I remember, and I'll always remember this, one of the children, and he was like running around, just rambunctious, full of energy. He sat there and calmly said, "This one makes me feel cozy." And I knew at that moment right then that it clicked for that child who is not on the spectrum. He was there learning about how to be a sensory ally and creating sensory items. But that's really what that training is all about, having that understanding and that shared understanding. And also that sensory items aren't just for people who have autism or who identify as being neurodivergent. They really can be for everyone. And that was the intent.
I'm glad you said that. That's a great story and a great illustration of why it's so important. And also a great illustration of the fact that sensory input and also sensory overload or, hyposensitivity, hypersensitivity, we all experience those feelings. It's not just specific to neurodivergent individuals or autistic individuals, like you said. So it's such a cool thing to find ways to talk about it and to experience and help other people, especially young people who might be siblings of somebody who's a sensory seeker or sensory avoider for various reasons, to experience that, because we all experience sensory input in different ways. And I had a personal example of going into a snoozling room years and years ago when I was first at Anderson. I got the chance to go into one of those. I'm sure you know what those are. Yeah. For the listeners, it's a room that is just filled typically with sensory types of items. And basically you're allowed to sort of gravitate to whatever makes you feel good or gives you the type of stimulation that you want. And it was interesting when I went into this small room that was had lots of things going on in it that, I found it completely overstimulating. I could not stay in that room for more than a couple of minutes without feeling kind of almost dizzy and a little sick to my stomach because it was too much sensory for me. Yeah. Whereas I had colleagues who I was working with on a daily basis who didn't want to leave the room because it felt so incredible to them. So it's just kind of a good reminder that things that can work and be really helpful to know more about and to have experiences with for autistic individuals and neurodivergent individuals can also be really, really helpful for any person.
Yeah, everyone experiences the world differently.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, great. And then the Mom's Night Out sounds like a good thing. I feel like just, going back to the years that we used to work together, I mean, I feel like, this was something that that I think we've both spent so much time with families, ranging from parents who are reeling sort of and just sort of reacting to a very early diagnosis of their child, all the way to people who are older and considering what happens when my adult child when I'm no longer here and my adult child still has their life to live out and what do I do then? And then everything in between, that whole gamut. And I know, again, you and I probably have both spent time with and spoken with and interacted with parents who express that journey in their own way. Some people write books. Some people start podcasts. Some people work in the field. Some people volunteer. Some people don't and do other things. But a Mom's Night Out, I think, is a great way to allow people to still sort of be their individual selves while also having that common grounding, right, and common connection. What are you finding? I know it's early, so you said 3 months in. But can you give some example of like, is it an activity-based kind of night out? Is it, are you finding that people are hesitant but getting more comfortable sharing? Because I think for a lot of families, a lot of moms, it can be very isolating. So can you give us any more detail on what a night like that would be?
So our first two were we met at a restaurant for our inaugural, and it was really me and three other moms sitting around and just chatting, just be people, which we sometimes, as a mom of an autistic adult, as when he was a child, I didn't always get to just be Tracy.
Yeah.
I always needed to be mom. I had to be on. And so this really gives an opportunity to come. People didn't just talk about what was going on in their house with their child. They also shared resources. They shared one person shared something about, a movie that they want to go see. And so we started chatting about the movie and the actors. So it was really like, wow, this is real life. I personally, as a mom, I wish that I would have had a group like the women that I'm meeting now to connect with when I was a mom of a younger child. And even now, as a mom of an older child, who's now an adult living on his own, I was still able to provide some information, feedback, guidance to people who are just, their children are 6, 9, 12 years old. And it was interesting to hear some of the stories. Our next Mom's Night Out is going to be at Apex Entertainment in Albany. And so we're going to meet and we are going to bowl. And that is actually happening next Wednesday, the 21st at Apex Entertainment. And we're getting together and we're going to bowl and we're going to chat. And again, it's about the social connection, which from that is going to come that support, because we'll be naturally forming some friendships. That's awesome. And as a mom, I didn't have that luxury of having tons of friends, or more than one good friend when I was a mom of a youngster.
I think that's great. We have to take a short break, but just as a reminder, you can probably find more information about this event and everything else that's going on at Autism Society Greater Hudson Region at their website, which is ASGHR.org. Tracy, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the BRIGHT program and a couple of other interesting topics that we can kind of get each other's thoughts on. So this is 1 in 31, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. We'll be right back.
Stand Up to Cancer asked leading cancer researchers to speak about why they do their work.
Two words come to mind for me. One is responsibility. The other is purpose.
It's just so inspiring to do research that impacts human lives.
Stand Up to Cancer has been a critical partner in advancing research for cancer.
Cancer research saves lives.
So please help us fight in this battle against cancer.
Be a part of the team that ends cancer at standuptocancer.org.
I'm Angela Bassett. As a first responder on screen, I know what it means to act fast in an emergency. In real life, the same urgency can save lives, especially when it comes to food allergy. For 33 million Americans, one bite can cause a life-threatening reaction. Now, there's a needle-free option, a new way to carry epinephrine. Know the risk, know the options. Be ready to act. Learn more at foodallergy.org/ready to act.
And now 1 in 31 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs presentation from the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 31, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking with Tracy Schober, who's the executive director at Autism Society Greater Hudson Region. We will be referring to it as Autism Society for the rest of this podcast. But remember, you can get more information about that organization and ways to get in touch with Tracy directly at ASGHR.org. Tracy, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm again glad to be back. One of the other ways that people can reach us is our Facebook page. And so we have events posted there, updates, information. We share resources there. And it's a pretty active page. So I do encourage people to go there as well. And I should have mentioned that before.
Nope, that's fine. We'll include that as well. That's really helpful information. I feel like everything now is, I remember when websites were the way to go. And now it's, it's the old school. It's the old school. But that's okay. So I wanted to talk about the BRIGHT program. I wanted you to talk about the BRIGHT program. Anderson Foundation for Autism was very pleased to be able to provide a grant to Autism Society Greater Hudson Region this year actually I should say in 2025 for the BRIGHT program. Having read the application and then had been part of a discussion with the rest of the grants committee as they reviewed over 80 applications, yours really, first of all, was beautifully written, but also really shined through, I think, in a lot of ways, and really seemed to pique the interest of the grants committee. So I'd love to hear how that's going, who you're partnering with, and what that program's going to look like with your anticipated outcomes.
Oh, great. And pun intended, shined through.
I didn't even do that. Okay.
So the BRIGHT program actually stands for Brave, Resilient, Inspiring Girls Happening Together. And the program is really a social and empowerment program for autistic and neurodiverse preteen and teenage girls. And we wanted to build this to help to design it really to build confidence, friendships, and self-awareness. And so we're hoping that this program will help to address some of those gaps in support for autistic and neurodiverse girls. We want to foster belonging and connection and confidence so that each girl has confidence in themselves. Encouraging that self-advocacy to be able to speak up appropriately for themselves and that emotional resilience. We also part of our focus will be on building social skills, some leadership skills for future success, creating a supportive community within that group. The group right now will have a maximum of 10 girls in the group. Right now, we have 8 of those slots filled for our first launch, which will launch at the end of the month. We can talk about that later. But we really want this program to inspire girls to be brave and resilient and proud of who they are. Some of the focus areas that we're going to include is to focusing on self-esteem and positive body image, building and maintaining relationships. So sometimes you can make friends, but then keeping them can be difficult. Managing emotions and avoiding drama. So we will implement a journaling piece into that program. And then developing some soft skills, which can be helpful in their classroom, in their friendships, in future jobs, and just life in general. And one of the things, if I can shift a little bit to the community partners that we have. So we have partnered with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they provided us with the Mindful Me series curriculum, which they designed, and I quote, to meet young people where they are. And so we're going to have this age-appropriate program that talks about emotions and emotional intelligence, and people, the girls in the program are going to be able to explore their feelings, understand the meanings, and then explore healthy ways to manage them. To build upon that Mindful Me framework, Fit and Fun Playscapes, who is had a great agency to us, a great community partner. They donated self-talk, social, emotional super stickers. To tell you what those are, close your eyes and envision a sticker that has some emojis on it and some places to write, really a check-in. So they can check in at each session to check in about how they're feeling. I feel this way because, and I can get help. I can help or get help by doing something. And so we provide a word bank. So Fit and Fun Playscapes and that program has really been a way for us to expand upon the NAMI Mindful Me. And then in addition to that, they donated some additional things like a Skelly board, which is a rollout mat, and it's if you Google Skelly board, it's a cool little game. And
I think actually Fit and Fun was on this podcast. I remember speaking to their their executive director, and she was telling me about some of these items. So that's a reference.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and find that one for any listeners, you can learn more about what they do. But that's awesome that they are supporting this program because it seems right up their alley.
Yeah, so they've been really helpful in their support. And then each girl, when they come to the program, they're going to receive a journal. And we'll discuss journaling, and that really journaling is a private space to think, to feel, to draw, and really express themselves, and that there's no right or wrong way to journal. And so we'll provide some guided prompts, and we'll provide the journal so everyone can get started. And then the Bethlehem YMCA is where our program is going to take place. So it's going to start on Wednesday, January 28th, and it goes every other Wednesday for 4 sessions. And they have been great. We have another program that we run out of their location. We have the Autism Swims Aquatics program. We utilize their pool. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to have another program there to continue that partnership. Right. And then finally, we could not have done and launched this program without the investment from Anderson Foundation for Autism. Really, this investment has really helped to launch this, and we believe that this investment is not only in Autism Society Greater Hudson Region, but it's also in the girls that we're going to be supporting in this program. So thank you very much. Yeah. For this opportunity.
It was exciting to see your proposal come through. And I think we see it the same way, or at least I'm not a non-voting member of that committee. I mostly facilitate the review of the proposals, but it really was nice to see it come through. And as anybody listening, and yourself included, can see on our website, we'll be opening our 2026 grant cycle soon. There's a place to sign up to get emails about it when it is going to launch and what the deadlines will be. So you can go to our website, which is andersoncenterforautism.org, and find the link to sign up to get emails about that. But really, it is designed, this whole external grant program is designed to broaden our mission to optimize the quality of life for individuals with autism beyond Anderson's own walls. So from what you've described, I mean, this is very much in line with what this program, the BRIGHT program, is obviously all about. The empowerment aspect of helping this group of 10 girls have a multitude of kind of tools in their own toolbox at the end of it to optimize their own quality of life is really such nice alignment with what we're trying to do as well. So congratulations, and I appreciate the appreciation. I want to go back to, you have 8 of 10 spots filled for this program. How would one go about finding out, if they could have their own child join, or they themselves wanted to join and try to get one of those last 2 spots? Is there information on Facebook, on your website, somewhere else?
So information on Facebook. If they go to our Facebook page, they'll be able to find that information and a link to register. They can also email us at communications@asghr.org. That's another way, or they can send us a direct message through Facebook. So those are 3 easy ways to be able to find the information.
Okay, great. So this is the BRIGHT program. Is there, remind me, you may have already said this, is there an age range for the girls that makes the most sense for the program?
So the current series that we're running is for ages 9 to 12. So that is our pilot 9 to 12-year-olds for this round.
That's great. So if you are a 9 to 12-year-old and you happen to be listening, or you're the parent maybe, or family member of a 9 to 12-year-old girl who would be interested and may benefit from this program, check out Facebook for Autism Society Greater Hudson Region, or email communications@asghr.org for more information. There are 2 spots left, and I'm sure you, Tracy, and we as well would love to see the program start off at full capacity at 10 on January 28th. That's really exciting, and we wish you all the best of luck for that. If I might, with literally less than a minute remaining, I'm curious if you saw what I saw all over some of my news yesterday, which is that Mattel is launching an autistic Barbie. Did you see this?
I did. I did.
All right. So I just wanted to bring it back to some of the sensory stuff we were talking about. It's a big topic. I'm sure it's going to get lots of attention, and we're going to try to highlight it on this podcast. But I did read that Autistic Barbie is going to come with noise-canceling headphones and a fidget spinner. Kind of reminded me when you were talking about the making of the fidget spinners.
And an AAC.
Yes. Is this something that you, thinking back to when you were the mom of, a young child, I know your son is an adult now, was the idea, the concept of something like this on your radar, that you thought we'd see this? Or is this surprising to you? Is it a natural evolution? What do you think?
I don't think it's surprising to me. I'm actually glad to see that Mattel is expanding their world to include people with all ability levels, all diagnoses, all genders, all race, all ethnicities. So it really just fits along the line of what I feel like, Barbie has evolved from the years of the Barbie Midge doll back in the 60s, 70s.
Oh, yeah. I just went to a museum showcase about it, and it was very interesting seeing the very early days.
I did think it was interesting that they did not have this Barbie in heels. I think that having the next Barbie or an accessory kit that comes out with different items that any Barbie could use would be amazing for Mattel to do.
Oh, yeah. That would be very much in keeping with what we talked about today. Well, I have to finish up, but I really want to thank you for your perspective on that, and also everything that you've shared today. Really cool stuff going on at the Autism Society and with you, and good luck with the Bright program. Tracy Schober, thank you. It's been really nice talking to you again, and looking forward to having you back in the future.
Great. Thank you very much, Eliza.
All right. This is 1 in 31, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 31, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.